I think it's about time to install some flooring inside of the shed. Right now, it's a metal shed. It's sitting on top of a paver base. It's stable. It very functional. It works really well. This is actually pretty good. I'm actually surprised. I'm impressed. There's nothing on the base, however. This is what I'm anticipating with the rainy season coming up. I don't think that there's a problem with the water actually getting into the actual shed itself, but there's always a possibility. It's not completely sealed to the ground, so there's always a possibility. I actually just was browsing Facebook Marketplace and I found these tiles. They were like $2, and the guy just had a great deal, and it was a solution that I was looking for. And this is what I anticipated early on, was that because when I was looking at the ad, I can see that these would have to be trimmed. So I want to show you with the solution how to trim these tiles here, these hard plastic tiles. Things are hard. Only using, I'm installing this just with the hammer and with the saw. Could I wait and go get a saw? I actually could. This is kind of like one of these spur of the moment things where I said, let me go ahead and install this. Let me see what I have to do, because let me plan this out. So let me kind of give you an idea of how to do this if you don't have the necessary power tools. And you can still get it done. I'm just going to cut those edges using this saw. So I'm going to cut these edges 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then from these 4 edges they will backfill 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's what I've done back here. Let me show you. Can't really see it too well, but I'm going to zoom in. You can't really tell, but this is not an original piece. I cut it off and it comes up. So it used to look like this. I cut there. It's not the cleanest cut, but it's actually pretty damn good. And then I just flipped it upside down, and now it just sits there. So that's what's currently there now. I'll kind of show you what's underneath there. Oh shit, just paver right now. So I live in California where it doesn't rain too much. This is anticipating to be a pretty wet season. As you can see, there's cracks in the pavers themselves, so moisture, if it comes in, if it enters, it won't be a substantial amount at the very least, and whatever's in there can be pulled up and be drained or be cleaned. So let me show you how I cut it. It's gonna get a little bit messy underneath here, so I'm just gonna place one of the original pads underneath. Make sure you are cutting off the right side, not the tops or not the other bottoms here. Right, make sure you are actually cutting the right side. Double check, triple check, especially early on. You don't want to make this mistake where you cut a bunch of them and now all of a sudden the configuration doesn't really fit. So when you're starting off, that's what I recommend. I planned it out as best I could. That way I'm only doing the perimeter, the outer edges, and I can actually save as many as possible and make sure that actually I can fill in what it is I'm trying to accomplish. But I'm basically saying, make sure you're cutting the right side. So you here, I'm not even using but like 2 hands here. A regular saw. Let me see. Okay, that's how it looks after it's cut. I can take a smaller blade and kind of finish that off. You can make it a little bit better on the cut there on the finish, but actually I like this because once it's pressed up against the frame, there's actually a little bit of room to expand, as these things are known to do. So I actually like leaving a little bit of a jagged point right there, and that way it has at least some room to expand. All right, so that's the finished edge. 1, 2, 3, 4. Try to collect as much of the debris as possible. I'm just gonna pick all that up and dump it into the trash. 2, 3. Remember, these are the pieces that are gonna be backfilled. All right, let's go do it. All right. All right.
So as you see, there's a little bit of a gap there. That's no problem. Just gonna put this up just a tiny bit. And again, that's gonna give you some room to expand because, you know, it's not completely tight with the edge. And where's our other pieces? And remember these boys. Those just go right in there. So it's not too much space. Last one on this. So yep, there we go. So now we got a nice clean wall there. And then the next one, I'll do the same thing. Just kind of lift this up. Yeah, I'm just doing that with my hand right now. So here's the next one. So I got one more tile here. This is going to complete out our outer edge. So I'm just going to cut this. I'm going to have to cut this in half. Yeah, that's going to be the hardest part. I did it. I cut the pieces in half. This is the edge that's going to go along the current border. And then this will go next door, and these will backfill the ones that I've already put in place. Matter of fact, let me do that first. Let's see how it looks. Looks all right. Nice and clean right there. Can't even really tell. You can't even really tell that it's there. Nice enough fit. You can't even tell. There's a border right there. Alright, now let's see how our cut fit right here. Alright. Not bad there. The only thing is you got this edge right here kind of sticking out. I'm going to take a little saw and just cut that off right quick. Alright, so we got our first row done. I'm happy so far. I think that I can go forward with my plan. A little bit of a gap there, but again, we're gonna allow this some room to move around. And then got some in the back as well. Okay, after a couple configurations, I think I'm getting it now. Making sure that there are no gaps in between the centers. Sometimes if you don't try to, you know, position it in a different way, then you may end up with like these gaps in between. It may not line up correctly, so I have to try a bunch of different configurations, but I think I got it now. Let's have a look. Last final corner on this update. We're getting all the tiles cut, trimmed, using the saw and just a hammer. I'm gonna reposition a few more of these, and then make sure we get these individual cuts so we can fill in those gaps over there. 2, 4, 6, 7, and 8. I have 9 left. That should be plenty. So I'm just about finished around the edges. I just have to cut or trim the rest of those edges so that it's smooth, and we'll be all done. But that corner, everything will be nice and flush, just like it is over here, for the most part. And then I'll take the scraps and then I'll plug those holes in, each one of those. I'm actually filming this 2 days later. The project has already been done. I've already put everything back into the shed here. So you can see how nice the finish job is on the edge. Everything is just nice and flush. I guess it's not really the best picture. But it came out much better than I thought. The floor is going to be nice because nothing is actually sitting on the floor except for some of these weights and some of this yard equipment. We have a ladder here, and then nothing else is actually on the floor. As you can see, everything is being lifted or sitting on the shelf, you know. So got this grill here that is on the ground, but I just think it's a good idea that nothing is actually sitting on the ground itself. That way it can protect the pavers. But overall, I'm so happy with how this came out. This was actually a $68 upgrade. I paid $2 for 34, and I didn't end up using them all, so I actually have some extras left over. I think I have like 4 left over, and that's even with the ones with the cuts. There's some little bit of a space there. I can always go in and fill that in though. It's just impossible to keep all the moisture out, but you can keep a significant amount of it out. All right, y'all.